The Fantastic Four had a set of films that might best be described as the Terrible Two. They were corny, camptastic comic book movies that tried to toe the line between serious and silly. But in the end, they just came off as seriously silly. These movies are filled with goofy decisions that at times did a disservice to the source. The memorable moments these movies have are meme-worthy. What is remembered from this duology isn't remembered for the right reasons necessarily. The non-stop, nonsensical wordplay that foreshadows the characters' futures, the lame attempts at justifying hero and villain naming conventions, and incredibly hammy ways of showing off the team's new set of skills. I want to know who the genius behind the scenes was that said, let's have Mr. Fantastic bust a move.
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
A lot of this story is ham-fisted, to the point of parody. Ben's shown to have a healthy relationship with his wife, but after the accident, she sours at the sight of him. Horrified by his appearance, she cowers in fear and runs into traffic. And it's not like he was approaching her and she was unaware that it was him. The guy called her and told her to brace herself. So I think this reaction is, well, it's a little bit much. Then, intent on showing her discontent, she shows up after her husband is being hailed as a hero for saving the lives of many on a bridge, so she could give him back his ring. Yeah, that's kinda ridiculous. If you wanted to make this moment better, he should have picked it up and said,
"Thing ring, do your thing!"
There's also plenty lapses in logic. The whole first movie displays the long-standing friendship between Reed and Ben. They have a brotherly bond where Ben has always looked out for Reed. Ben's also never liked nor trusted Victor Von Doom, being hesitant to work with him at all.
They literally call themselves Decepticons. That doesn't set off any red flags?
Yet as soon as Doom not so subtly mentions that Reed's not doing all he can for him, Ben throws his friendship away and acts out aggressively. Look, I understand why this happened at this point in the story. You need to break the team up so you could put them back together. His character wants to look normal again. I get the motivation behind all of it. But I don't buy into any of it. In no world, not even in one where he was transformed into looking like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is the Thing gonna side with Dr. Doom over Mr. Fantastic. Or how about when you have this nurse who notices Johnny has a fever of 209, and instead of informing him and suggesting that he remain hospitalized, she goes out with him. So when the two wind up going skiing, he bursts into flames in front of her, and she responds by getting undressed and joining him in the ice he just melted. Alright, let the record show that I question this woman's medical degree. I want to see her ADN and badge stat. Obviously, these two films weren't meant to be taken too seriously, but they do on occasion attempt to be somewhat serious. Unfortunately, it feels like they sacrifice too much of their time cracking jokes and being comedic, and it ultimately undermines the threat and severity of situations the team find themselves in. When this duology does try to be sincere or showcase more serious story beats, they almost always miss the mark. What should be major moments fall short and feel very mild. Sue Storm dies during the team's second outing, and the only one who can muster a sad face is her would-be husband, Reed Richards. Meanwhile, her longtime friend and brother are just looking on slightly confused. For the record, all of what I'm saying is just the tip of the iceberg. They're examples that are indicative of the tone itself. In addition to some cringeworthy creative choices, the casting and depictions of characters also weren't always fantastic.
Say that again?
With the movie's leading lady specifically failing to make an impression. Now, Jessica Alba is not a terrible actress. I've seen her in things I enjoyed her in, but she does absolutely nothing in these movies. She's just generic and delivers her lines like she's just reading them for the first time. It's not awful, but it's not anything. This part is so nondescript here, and the actress just doesn't bring anything to the role. Her best bits see her bickering with her brother in their back and forth banter. And the only reason I say that is because it's the one time her character actually feels like a real person. Julian McMahon was brought in to play Dr. Doom, and it hurts me how bad this is. only because I'm a fan of the guy's work and know that he could portray twisted characters that fall under the darker side of the morality spectrum. But here, Doctor Doom is such a shallow and hollow attempt at an antagonist. Like Alba, he borders on generic, and he misses the mark in terms of accuracy and just overall quality. He's a good standard by-the-numbers bad guy, but he lacks the complexity of the comic character that he's portraying. That's not entirely the actor's fault. He's not really written to be that character. He is just kinda written as generic bad guy. Interesting thing to note though, this role was originally offered to Robert Downey Jr. Could you guys imagine that? Iron Man as Doctor Doom? What a world that would be. Oh, what a world that's about to be. And don't even get me started with what they did to Galactus. They turned a cosmic entity into a cloud. The Eater of Worlds is now a space storm. That just might be the greatest injustice done to a comic book character on the big screen ever. What an incredible disappointment. Suffice it to say, the Fantastic Four films didn't always live up to the first half of their name. They're not great movies by any means. They weren't without redeemable qualities. I mentioned the bad and bland casting. But if you're gonna acknowledge the blatant bad, you also have to mention the obvious good. While I don't think that Ioan Gruffudd was by any means the perfect Reed Richards, he is still to this day the best one ever brought to the big screen. He does a great job at depicting the dorkier side of the character, with his infatuation for science and obliviousness to, well, just about everything else. It's pretty good, all things considered. But have there ever been better casting choices than the rest of the team? Chris Evans plays Johnny Storm to perfection. He's a headstrong, cocky, overly sarcastic narcissist. And by the way, that's a compliment.
Why, thank you, and I'm not afraid to cry.
Michael Chiklis was born to play the Thing. He is continually the best part of these two movies. And I use no hyperbole when I say this. I can't imagine that the first one would have even gotten a sequel had it not been for this perfect performance. Even when these movies are at their worst, he still performs at his best. He carries himself with such a sense of sadness. He's tough, his voice is gruff, and his life is rough. That's basically everything you could ever hope for in a Thing portrayal. He is the heart of the team, even if his heart looks more like a boulder. Despite being the one member of the team to not look like a person, ironically, he's the most human. He really grounds these movies and can sell the weight of a moment even when the rest of the movie feels, well, weightless. The man Stan Lee has praised Chiklis in this role, calling it his favorite portrayal of a Marvel comic character. So, that's high praise. It's also apparently one of Michael Chiklis' favorite characters to ever play in his career. More importantly than Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm, or Michael Chiklis playing the Thing, is the friendly feud between the two that makes these movies great. It is without a doubt the Fantastic Four film's most redeeming quality. It feels like the sibling rivalry from hell. They play perfectly off each other, with their contrasting personalities constantly clashing. Any time shared between the two is screen time well spent. I would suggest watching the Fantastic Four flicks for them alone. These scenes make these movies. Overall, I don't actually know how appropriate it is to say that this series necessarily died. It was short-lived, sure, but it was nothing else if not consistent. They kept the tone and approach to the series the same. It was just as goofy in the beginning as it was in the end. So sure, these things don't stand the test of time, but then again, very few things do. They're very much a product of their time. And you know what? That's alright. They weren't fantastic Fantastic Four films, but for the early 2000s, I would say that they were adequate superhero flicks. I don't love them, but I do think there are things to love about them. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video and would maybe like to see me check out the Fantastic Four reboot, which I have yet to do, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
You remember the Fantastic Four?
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.